Welcome to the second episode of our Turbocharged SDLC, the Agentic AI Era series. Today, we are joined by Subodh Bhide, VP of Pre-Sales at Harbinger Group. Welcome, Subodh. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Shrikant.
Well, hope you got a chance to have our coffee.
Absolutely. It's the brilliant one.
It's a brilliant one. I thought you would say that it needs some improvement. But thank you that you like the coffee. I know you are coffee lover. But today, Subodh, I think the reason we are here is to understand your perspective on how agentic AI can revolutionize the requirement gathering, planning, and design phases. I know as a head of pre-sales, you are constantly challenged by large enterprises, ISVs in this regard. And I'm aware the last 12 to 18 months, you and your team has been using agentic AI quite a bit. So our kind of discussion today is focused around, how AI is kind of helping you in the various things that you do. So looking forward to that conversation, Subodh. So Subodh, the first question I have is, when we were doing this traditional requirement gathering, there always used to be gaps between various stakeholders, resulting in either rework later or some going back to requirements and changing things. Now, when you have started using AI and the whole agentic AI approach, are you seeing that whole process can be further streamlined and the requirement gathering has got better? What are your views on that?
Very valid question, Shrikant. And requirement gathering has always been a very high risk phase of the SDLC. Stakeholders, they have the tendency to state their requirements in a different way in any format that they want at any given point of time. So, and there is an assumption that these stakeholders make that the person who is trying to understand this requirement, they have completely got it, they have completely articulated it. And that's where some of the problems start to creep in. There are misinterpretations, there are assumptions, some of the edge test cases are missed. And all of this often goes undetected all the way when we reach the development or the QA phase. And at that time, as you said, fixing it becomes very expensive. And this is where the agentic AI comes in. It starts acting as a real-time, context-aware collaborator. It listens to conversations, captures the nuances, and proactively surfaces clarifying questions. So let's take an example that you have a product owner who is in a grooming session, and they ask a question to the AI bot which says, okay, we need to build a 360 capability in our performance review tool. Now, the AI agent just doesn't look at this as a note-taking task. It just doesn't record it, but it immediately starts prompting back to everyone who is involved in that session and asking like, should the feedback be anonymous? Should it be identifiable? Is the feedback available only to the employee, or do the HR manager also get to see it? Should it be template based? That means there are like peer templates, managerial templates, which get designed in that feedback. What is the frequency? What's the linkage to other performance rating engines? So in a way, what it's trying to do is transform a vague feature request into a far more structured requirement. And it just doesn't stop there, but it actually begins to draft user stories for different roles that are going to participate in it. It starts listing system rules and certain constraints that would come along with it. It would start prompting for integrations that could be required in that feature with other goal setting modules. Now, this is something what the agentic AI just doesn't document, but it starts to find out what's missing. It perhaps asks 10, 15 different questions that a BA or an architect would ask. It brings clarity up front, it cuts down on the integration efforts, and it helps cross-functional teams speak the same language in the early stage of the life cycle.
So thanks for sharing the examples. That provides a lot of clarity. Now coming to this point about collaboration, right? Everybody is using agents and people are also working together. So how do you see this whole co-planning, co-designing, from your point of view, now that you've actually done some of these things without compromising the strategy and the innovation part when people are involved. How are you seeing, this is helping the whole process?
Nice question, Shrikant. And co-planning and co-designing between human stakeholders, as you know, is like a very critical stage of the SDLC. This is where the intent turns into executable blueprints. And this is where we can say that strategy, creativity, constraints, user needs, all of them sort of converge together. But the general apprehension and concern with AI being a part of this is that, is AI going to work as a mere pattern matching tool? But the answer is that when it is used right, the AI agent, it's going to enhance the human-led planning and design by taking over some of the mechanical context-heavy work and have the team focus on innovation, creativity, and some of the critical aspects. So on the co-planning aspect, consider a sprint planning cycle where you give high-level inputs for your product goals like improve user engagement, reduce the admin workload, increase enterprise configurability. And again, the agentic AI, when it's configured to work in this context, it would start pulling backlog items, start mapping them with these goals that you have mentioned, try to estimate the story points based on the past velocity, identify potential blockers, like there could be unfinished APIs or non-implemented data structures that this might need. And it can even go to the extent of proposing sequence of steps across different sprints. Now, what it's essentially trying to do, it's not trying to replace the product lead, but it's going to augment with an intelligent scaffolding that's constantly learning from historical project data. Similarly, if you take this concept to the designing phase, so say that your UX team is redesigning the add new employee workflow in the HR SaaS platform. So you might prompt the design agent to say, okay, create 3 workflows with varying levels of managerial control and pre-filled data. Again, the AI agent, it's listening to this, it starts creating simple forms that could be applied for small businesses that have flat organizations. Or it could create a series of screens that can be put together as a workflow and can be applied to large enterprises that are there. It could even go to the extent of pulling in defaults from an applicant tracking system or other systems of records that exist. So once this is ready, then the human team, they can evaluate these AI generated mockups, modify them for branding, modify them for clarity, for usability, and so on. So essentially what we are trying to achieve over here is that the AI is bringing in operational memory while the human brings in the strategic and the creative judgment into the mix. And together they can remove the rework loops that exist. They can get closer to the right solution and much faster than usual.
Well, again, loved your points of view on the co-creation part. Now, looking ahead, how do you see agentic AI evolving in the software development lifecycle, particularly in the planning and design phase, the futuristic part? How do you see it?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, Shrikant, and this is something that everyone has on the top of their mind. So in the current state, agentic AI enhances individual moments in the SDLC, may it be writing specs, creating mockups, writing code, validating the test coverage. But in the near future or very quickly, this AI is going to evolve as a system level orchestrator that's going to continuously align the product strategy. It's going to look at the development progress, look at the design quality, and even take the end user experience into consideration. So in the planning phase, the agentic AI will analyze cross sprints, it will look at feature usage, it would look at the team capacity, customer success data. And let's say you prompt it to say that, okay, plan the next phase of the competency framework that we are building. And because it's aware of all this context that's happening across different phases, it will begin to surface certain bottlenecks that were learned in the previous cycle. or it could identify modules and schema updates that are required for these features to work. It could detect any duplicate efforts that might be there with other teams that are working in parallel on a similar widget. It could suggest roadmap items. It could create an MVP or a phased delivery mechanism for the teams to leverage that. Similarly, on the design side, consider a scenario where the team is building a skill gap analysis dashboard, and the agentic AI is monitoring the design check-ins that are happening. And it would start giving recommendations for different chart types that could be used that can simplify the role versus employee data comparison. It could flag potential biases that might be there in the way the competencies are being rated. WCAG compliance is something which we take very seriously. So the agentic AI could detect potential challenges or issues that are there in those mockups that have been created. So in all, the agentic AI is going to evolve from being an helpful assistant to an intelligent conductor. It's going to proactively shape designs, decisions, capacity management, look at the system integrity part of it. Importantly, reduce that design debt that's going to be created, create cross-functional awareness, and ultimately make the product not only deliver faster, but deliver in a very right manner. So Shrikant, agentic AI is not reshaping the SDLC. It's not going to replace the humans, but it is filling the persistent gaps that are there between intent, execution, and insights. So the future of SDLC is going to be hybrid. It's going to be human-led, and it is going to be AI-enhanced.
Thanks, Subodh, for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you for having me.
What we covered today with Subodh was how agentic AI can streamline the SDLC by identifying gaps in requirement gathering, planning, and design. During these SDLC phases, AI can enhance human decision making by generating structured requirements and providing real-time feedback. We also understood that AI-driven collaboration can also ensure better clarity, faster execution, and continuous alignment with user needs, creating a more efficient and innovative product development experience for all stakeholders. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for our next episode in the series.